everyone, it's me Jenny and it's time for another anime review. It's been so long since my last anime review. I hope I haven't completely lost the knack, but it's quite likely that I have. And this is technically an anime update because I will be talking about Death Note today. I reviewed the first 10-ish episodes. Again, my brief opinion on it, link to that in the description if I remember to put it in the description. Start on screen if I remember to do that as well. Yes, I reviewed the first 10-ish episodes and I finally had the time to finish the series. I've watched the episode about 11 till 37. And my quick review is kind of similar feelings that I had after the first 10 episodes, in that I enjoyed the experience because it is definitely a really good story and it's a really well told, interesting concept, but I didn't love it. It didn't give me any sort of level of emotional connection. The thing that I love about anime is that kind of happy buzzy feeling that you get like when a character comes back and you haven't seen them in a while, or when the fight sequences are building up, or equally when there's a real emotional resonance and you get emotional and you really feel for the characters and you really root for them, and like when a character dies, for example, you have a genuine emotional connection to that character. So that's the reason why a lot of my real favourite animes are the ones that have genuinely made me cry. And I don't like crying, but when it has that empathetic connection, that is something that I love about anime. And this series just never got to that point for me. It's an incredibly interesting concept, but because the concept is balancing the perspective of when your hero is not your protagonist, or when your protagonist is not your hero, and how that storytelling works. There isn't really a character that you're genuinely rooting for the entire way through the series. You're put in the shoes of Light, and he is not the hero, he is not the good guy, and it's very hard to root for someone that I've got the same feelings when it comes to characters like Batman and Green Arrow and Dexter. I really can't find myself enjoying being in the shoes of someone who's that psychotic, for lack of a better word. And in fact, my favourite part of the series was, minor spoilers, I probably will try and avoid as much spoilers as I can, but I will be discussing the whole series, so spoiler alert, during the part where he's lost his memory of being Killer. That's probably one of my favourite aspects of it, when he's actually working together with Elle, and Elle and Light are kind of pairing up and doing a sort of almost buddy cop thing in comparison to being at war. That was probably my favourite part, because at least I knew, at least for a short amount, that I was with the good guys rooting against the bad guys. And I'm a big fan of complex storytelling, but because the fact that you're not ever put in shoes that you're actually really meant to empathise with, I didn't relate to many of the characters, and probably the only really good characters, or the characters who have the moral high ground, are L and N. And the trouble with those characters is they're on the other side, they're the other team, they're the guys you're meant to be against, and so it's very hard to find someone that you're actually rooting for. And equally, pretty much most of the cast has some level of psychotic issues, or some sort of ridiculously crippling social issues. I do like the personality quirks. I mean, they were very entertaining, particularly like N with his constant toy playing, and the sugar obsession that comes with L. But it definitely it didn't quite sell the characters for me. The other problem with it is the female characters are constantly used and abused. I mentioned in my first video that I really found the death of the female FBI agent truly really dark. Midsa, who I think is how we pronounce her name, I could be pronouncing that completely wrong, hadn't been introduced at the point that I'd got in the first review, and I dislike her character, and I dislike her character treatment. She's incredibly, for lack of a better word, a cartoony character, and this is an anime, so all the characters are cartoons, but she's the only one that goes into that ridiculous anime place, while the rest of this anime is very serious and very grounded, in its own reality obviously, but it's very grounded, and her character is very cartoony. She's annoying, for lack of a better word, and for the concept of a character being the one-dimensional pretty girl who's in love with the main guy to a fault. It's just, I found it very hard to be interested in her character because that's just one dimension to her. And the only time when she actually has two dimensions is when she has the Death Note, and that gets taken away from her. So her one dimension was the fact that she was semi-evil, and that was the one point where she actually was showing some signs of intelligence, and that gets ripped away from her and she gets left with nothing. and I really hope the end scene's really ambiguous. The last time you see her, she's wearing her little Lolita outfit, gothic Lolita outfit, and she stood looking at a view, and it's ambiguous as to whether or not she'd jump off. And I really hope that she stands on that thing and realises that she is more than just her relationship and actually goes out into the world and lives. And that's the ending that I'm fanficking. Like, it may or may not be real, but I wish that that is the case, because she just is so sucked into this relationship and that's all there is to her. Similarly, a lot of the other female characters kind of left a little bit to the wayside. The thing I did like about this, in the same way that, oddly enough, this is going to sound really weird out of context, Pirates of the Caribbean, Jack Sparrow versus Barbossa, similar to Elle versus Light, they're kind of like gods at play. It's a clash of titans. They're so incredibly out of the world of reality that when those two characters face off with each other, it is watching the battle of the gods. And it's very like the end of Sherlock Holmes' A Game of Shadows, in that they even have a scene where they're thinking so far ahead that they're basically having a psychic conversation. I mean, it's not actually happening, but their logical patterns are so similar and so far ahead of every other human that it's like watching a clash of titans. So it's visually impressive and awe-inspiring and amazing, but it's not empathetic, it's not human, it's not something that you can relate to. And in a way, they could have thrown Mitza in to be a kind of a human in this world, a human who's being affected by these deities who are fighting over this. There is a lot of religious symbolism in the series, it is, but they could have thrown her in as that sort of character who's got that genuine interest and that genuine demigod-esque characteristic, but instead all of that gets taken away, which was rather disappointing. It's definitely when gods touch the world and when people get touched by gods, and not in a sexual way, but it does kind of feel a bit Greek in places. Going off the metaphors as well, the foot washing scene definitely felt very biblical. There's a lot of other minor things which definitely reference, particularly towards the end, it's a whole new world. It's kind of almost strangely post-apocalyptic after 6 years of Killer being out on the streets. It definitely feels like there's a question as to whether or not the world will bounce back, or whether or not actually what Light has done during his time has made a better world. But generally, it's a good series, it's a very good story, it's a very interesting story, there's a lot of very interesting concepts, but it didn't give me that emotional feeling that I look for when I go into an anime to make it great. It was good, it was very well written, very intelligent in terms of its logical processes and the way that it plays with the mythology of the series, the baseline mythology, and how they tinker with it and how far ahead Light is with his planning. It's very well handled, but it just didn't give me that thing that makes it a great anime for me. But that is just my opinion. Yeah, there we go. Oddly enough, I'm actually wearing the same dress that I wore for the last review I did for this video. I just rewatched the video to try and so that I don't repeat too much of myself. So yeah, that was interesting. And as a final point, because I just remembered talking about the other video, the other thing I liked about it was when they do the real like emotional, psychological like tics, they go to bold colour choices for the characters like hair and eyes, and I did like the way that they dealt with colours, like when minor characters get their colour of their own, like purples or yellows, while Light is always red and Elle is always blue. And I like that N is kind of, it's blue as well, but I think it's slightly paler shade, so it's kind of like Elle coming back. So yeah, there we go, I just wanted to throw that in as a visual point. There we go. That is my thought on the series. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to tell me I'm the worst reviewer ever, I'm completely wrong, this anime series is the best thing ever, or this anime series is the worst thing ever. Whatever you'd like to say down in the comments, I will be happy to see it. And I will see you guys all very soon. Bye guys.